Dr. Nicole Yamase is from the islands of Pohnpei and Chuuk in the Federated States of Micronesia. She spent parts of her childhood in the Republic of Palau and Saipan and the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands as well. She received her PhD in marine biology from the University of Hawaii at Manoa, where she studied the ecophysiological responses of native Hawaiian microalgae. As a Micronesian student, weaving together her culture and science background, she hopes her love for the ocean and expeditions will inspire indigenous youth across the globe to pursue STEM fields. As the Director of Impact at One Reef, Nicole will be working closely with all stakeholders to define, measure, communicate impact in a meaningful way that interweaves science and traditional knowledge. Nicole, why don't you come up to the stage? Welcome her. Woo-hoo. So we have this kind of cross-pollination of some of our other older generations with the next generation, and we're really happy to have Sesario. So Sewralur, as you know, he's the son of Mao, and he was the youngest. You were the youngest, yeah, on that crew that sailed from Hawaii to Tahiti in 1980. And at the time, you were 16 years of age, so you do the math as to the rest of it. Mao invested a lot in him, and he trained him and invested time in him, and now we call him a Grand Master Navigator. Sesario.
Iang o Tirawawi Medicine. Thank you so much for the introduction and welcome. I'm really honored to be sitting next to Sesario. We've bonded a lot in the last few years, and I'll tell you our story, and I'll start with mine, and then my story will blend into his. I was born in Pohnpei in the FSM. That's my birth home. In Pohnpei, we come from a matrilineal society, so I inherit my clan from my mother's side. My mother is from the Tipinwai clan, that's the Stingray clan. And in Pohnpei, stingrays are called Nono and Nanset, which means mother of the ocean. Legend says that when a woman was about to give birth, she would go into the ocean and sit in the water so that the waves can comfort her. When the woman would give birth, the stingray would be there to catch the baby on its back and then use its tail to cut the umbilical cord and then to give the baby to the mother. While the mother is caring for her baby, the stingray would go and catch fish to make sure that the mother gets the nutrients she needs to take care of her child. So the Nono and Nanset plays a very important role, not as the mother of the ocean, but also as a midwife to care for mothers and our children. So I guess I'll dive right into it since I've been getting a lot of questions. In March 2021, it's already been over 3 years, I was very fortunate to go down to the bottom of the deepest part of the ocean in our whole world, Challenger Deep, which is part of the Marianas Trench. The Marianas Trench is crescent-shaped, and it falls in Guam's EEZ, CNMI's EEZ, and then FSM's EEZ. The location of Challenger Deep is at the southern tip of the Marianas Trench, which falls within the FSM's EEZ. And although it's there, it's in our ocean. There shouldn't be no pools of this is mine, this is yours, this is ours. This is ours. It's in our ocean, and it's ours to take care of. Challenger Deep was 36,000 feet, or 10,925 meters, or 6.8 miles deep from the surface. If you put Mount Everest at the bottom of Challenger Deep, there's still a mile of water on top of it. The trip took it took 4 hours to go down in a submarine called the Limiting Factor. And we spent about 2 hours exploring the deep, and then it took another 4 hours to go back up. When I was asked to go, this historical dive was to be the first Pacific Islander, second youngest person, fourth woman, and 20th person to go down. As of today, in a world of almost 8 billion people, 27 of us have made it to this sacred location. But when I think about those 26 other people, their experience can never be like mine. Because as a Pacific Islander, we have this deep connection to the ocean, that it's not just a place for research or to extract. It's a living, breathing ancestors of ours. And so many questions that were asked is, are you scared? And honestly, I was not scared. I was more scared of representation, to go down as the first Pacific Islander, to really think about what that meant, not just for me, but the whole Pacific and our culture and generations that are going to come before me. And that really was heavy on me. People asked, oh, how does it relate to your research? How does it, what are you collecting? What's the data? But honestly, I didn't care about that. It was more of, how do I represent a beautiful ocean rich in diversity into that moment when we go to the bottom? And so I spoke with families and friends, and I was just not settled in what they were suggesting. Bring a conch shell, bring a lei, but it didn't sit right with me. And so I was able to talk to Nainoa, and he said, when Mao came to Hawaii, he brought everybody. So you bring Mao. And so I had in my house my dad's canoe. And so that's what I brought down to Challenger Deep, to not only honor Mao's legacy, but also our cultural heritage as ocean people. And to also honor our identity, that without the ocean, who are we? We have nothing to tie ourselves to. Our values, the way of life, are literally our breath. So another question was, well, I guess going off of the, are you scared? Many people I've talked to said they would never go down if they were even offered $1 million, and said that I was really brave and really crazy. And I think it's the second one. But the idea of the deep to many is a dark and scary and cold, lifeless place, but it is the exact opposite of what many people think. To us islanders, the deep is where life came from. It's a place where magic is held. It's a place where our ancestors have been singing about and talking about. And the thought of, how did they know this place was there? For Challenger Deep, the closest land mass to it is Fais, which is one of the outer islands of Yap. And Fais means to be pulled up. And they believe this is what created Challenger Deep. How did they know that? And that's the beauty in being Rematau, a Carolinian word that means people of the ocean, that there's this magic that our people just have, that they're just so connected that they just know. And there are just some things in this world where you just don't question, you just believe in it too. And so when I went down, with that perspective, that it's not a place that's supposed to be scary, I didn't feel scared at all. I felt very excited. I felt like I was going down to meet a relative that my mom has been talking about, or my community. And so when I went down, there was a sense of familiarity, like I was going to visit an aunt. So instead of, having that fear that many people would have, I felt embraced. I felt that I was getting the biggest hug from the ocean you can ever get, and that I was wrapped in the magic of my ancestors in their arms. My mother cried when I went. She thought I was gonna stay down for a week or however long I was gone, but I said, no, I'm just gonna be there and come back up. She goes, oh, okay. And then she goes, what if, something happens and you don't come up? And she started crying again. And then, when you're in that situation, you do think about that, like, oh, what if something happens? And honestly, I'm crazy again. I really felt at peace that if anything happened, that I would go in the arms of my ancestors, that I would be in the ocean. Or if it wasn't my time, then I would come back and be in the arms of my family and community. So either way, I was ready for the result. So I guess they say that's like, once in a lifetime opportunity. I was able to go back to the Marianas Trench, not as a diver, but as a cheerleader, basically, the following year to support Dr. Dawn Wright, who was the fifth woman and the first African woman to go down to Challenger Deep. And then we had former president of Palau, Tommy Remengesau Jr., to go down to Palau Trench with Victor Vescovo as the first human beings. And then Sesario to go down to Yap Trench as one of the first human beings with Victor. And so those two experiences were really different for me, because my first trip, it was a very lonely one, and it was a very emotional, heavy one for me. This time around, I didn't have to dive, but I was there to support the next Micronesian aquanauts and the next woman in STEM. So that was another really impactful moment, to just spend time with Sesario and President Remengesau and Dr. Dawn Wright. I was able to see a little piece of me in each of them, where Dr. Dawn Wright was, a woman in STEM and representing minorities. President Remengesau is an international environmental champion. And then Sesario was a navigator. I'm definitely not a navigator in that sense, but a navigator, I guess, for education and just, being the first Pacific Islander, it comes with a lot of responsibilities that I don't think I realized until I went home. When I was asked to go, I was writing my dissertation, trying to finish up my field work and graduate. And so when they reached the Micronesia Conservation Trust reached out to me and said, Nikki, do you want to go on a submarine? And I thought a submarine in Waikiki. So I said, no, thank you. I'm really busy. I have to talk to my advisor first. So she said, okay, here's some links to Victor Vescovo's, historical accomplishments and the limiting factors submersible. And so when I watched, I was like, oh my gosh, this ain't no Waikiki submarine. This submarine is going all the way down. And I said, actually, I can do it. I will talk to my advisor later. So that was then. But really, when I brought the canoe down, I didn't realize that I would come up with new family. And so to be on the ship with Sesario the following year, above Challenger Deep, I brought the canoe back with me, and we were sitting above Challenger Deep, and I showed him the canoe and told him the story of, how it came to be to bring Papa Mau and to honor him. And so to be up there above Challenger Deep with Sesario, with the canoe, was really full circle. I guess the work that I currently do now, I'm Director of Impact for a nonprofit marine organization called One Reef, and we acknowledge that if we want to protect the oceans, we have to work with local communities, that you guys are our North Star, that you are the ears and eyes and mouths, you are the voices of our ocean and land. And so I connect that to my dive as well because, okay, let's see. So 2021, I got to go down to Challenger Deep. 2022, what month was that? Earlier in the year, I guess. In April, we got to go to Challenger Deep, Yap Trench, Palau Trench, and then later that year, I was able to finish up and graduate with my PhD in marine biology. And that also made me the first FSM citizen to have a degree in that field from my country. So, I don't do these things for applause or for titles. I do it for I always cry, and if you know me, I'm a crybaby, so.
You need a hug. I'm bringing the Ocean Mother for a hug.
Okay. So with One Reef, we're always getting pulled to choose between identities. As a Micronesian scientist, I cannot choose to be Micronesian. I cannot choose to be a scientist because they are one. And I cannot be one without the other. And so through my work with One Reef, I get to embrace both sides and work with a lot of our local communities in Micronesia. Typically when you get your PhD, you become a professor, you teach, and so my advisor has been asking, Nicole, where are you? We have some postdocs open. But really, it's been, my calling is in the community. And like I said, working in community, these titles don't mean anything. When you work with them, everything is stripped away. And so when we push aside all these titles and other agendas and politics, we make room for our cultural values. Sorry. Our cultural values of love and respect for each other. And so when we have those in place, in front of us, then we can really all come together to share visions for what we want our oceans to be. But I'm going to stop here, and then I'll let Sesario continue on. Thank you.
Tiro. I think I already introduced myself yesterday. But, everywhere I go, I always think that things happen for a reason. When I receive an email to go dive the Yap Prince, I was super excited. But families and friends, they called me stupid and crazy. So I said, well, I'm excited. Same thing they asked. What if something happened down there? I said, I'll be the spirit of the ocean, that I will guide our people in our water. Okay, in 1995, after the voyage with Nainoa and them came back to Hawaii, I went back to Cook Island. So I was in Cook Island for 3 months. Then Brother Tua and Peia asked me, let's go protest against the nuclear bomb. Let's go. As a Pacific Islanders, I went. So it happens for a reason. I went and protest. I have no idea what's going to happen. But I went to represent the Pacific Islanders. And that was the question I was asked again. Why do you want to go protest against the nuclear bomb? I said, as a Pacific Islanders, I've seen what happened in Marshall, so I got to go. I have no idea that I'm going to go to Cook Island and go to protest against the bomb in Mururoa. But I did went. And then I went down to Yap Trench, excited to see these sea mounds that it's really tall. And I said, you know, we have to protect our ocean, because even in navigation, if they're going to destroy our reef, shallow reefs that we use as a reference, then we do not have any clues where we are. Because if you happen to come across the shallow reefs, you have to trace the shape of that shallow reef, and it tells you exactly where you're at. Then you know where the island is. Same as the birds, dolphins, whales. So I've come across dolphins that they call igipalap, which is name of Metwalur and Tamas' dad. It's a group of dolphins that it's between Saipan and Satawal. So I've come across that it tells me exactly where West Fayou is, where Satawalese, and the other islands. So we need to protect our ocean and these animals, that they give us clues on where we are. The reef, shallow reefs, that tells you exactly where you are. So we are the Pacific Islanders. We are the care people of our ocean. So thank you.
Perhaps the audience has some questions for you. Would that be helpful? Questions from our audience? And we welcome our kamali'i here from, where? Kamehema? Mālama Honua Charter School. Awesome. Questions, including you folks? They went deep. I think my mascara is running. Questions? So what can we do? What needs to be done? Did it prompt you, your experiences prompt you to a call to action?
Oh, yes. I forgot to also share. One of the biggest questions that I got was, what did you see down there? I personally didn't see anything, maybe because of the bright lights from the submarine, or the loud noise from the propellers. But there is life down there. Landers with GoPros and videos have captured the unique marine life that has been down there and adapted to these conditions for many, many years. What I saw was tethers or fishing line laying on the bottom of the ocean, or it was suspended in the water column. And so when we were exploring, Victor would say, keep an eye out, because if the line gets suspended in our propellers, then we have a problem. When we went back 2022, Dr. Dawn Wright, the first thing she saw was a beer bottle. And so, you know, these moments that are supposed to be proud moments were also very eye-opening and disappointing moments for us to know that at that time, 20 and 21 people have been to Challenger Deep, yet we've already made a mark in our sacred oceans 6.8 miles below. Like, what are we doing? We need to, you know, people say, who did it? They're responsible. We need to stop fighting. We need to stop pointing fingers because there's no time for that. It's, the bottom line is that trash is there and it's a humanity problem. It's a global problem that we all need to do our part to take care of our ocean.
Mahalo. Sesario, you have anything to add? What was your call to action? Good. Okay. Sylvia?
Well, the bottom line, isn't it, to protect the ocean as if your life depends on it, because it does? And we're not doing that. We're still using the ocean as the ultimate garbage dump, still using the ocean as a source of free goods. All you have to do is get out there and take. Whether it's oil, gas, minerals, sand, or many thousands of variation on the theme of life. And it's just so powerful hearing from you. At this point in time, early in the 21st century, to be witnesses of what no one could see before right about now. I don't know how many millions of people have been 11 kilometers high in the sky, probably everyone in this room. But as you point out, only 21, the first one in 1960, the second one 52 years later, well, there are two in 1960. So before Victor Vescovo came along, he's a businessman, he's not a scientist. He is a mountain climber, he's an achiever, a high achiever, and now a deep achiever, commissioned the building of a little submarine to go to full ocean depth. What was great about Victor's approach, and love to hear your thoughts about this, well, he wanted to go, he wanted to climb all of the highest mountains because they were there, and he just wanted to beat his chest and say, look at me, I've done this. He wanted to go to all the deepest places in the ocean because it was there to be done. Nobody had done it before. That was his motivation. But going into the ocean, I think especially going with the likes of you, has changed his feeling of accomplishment from being the personal hero to sharing the view, to letting others know why they should care. So he not only extended an invitation to some of you who had the ability then to be a magnifier, to tell others in a meaningful way why they should care. I thought it was special that he took the son of Don Walsh, who was one of the individuals who went down in 1960. They were the first. To take Don Walsh's son, I think, was just a remarkable gesture that shows that there are qualities of Victor Vescovo that are truly admirable. So, from 3 individuals to 21, and why stop there? I mean, there may never be as many people going to the deepest parts of the ocean as there have been to an equal height high in the sky. But at least we have a few witnesses to show that the ocean is alive from the top all the way down to the bottom. And that it matters, that the ocean is alive. Until we are actually able to go there, not just with instruments, not just with cameras, but with human witnesses, we just still could be indifferent, not knowing you could not care. There's no excuse anymore. Where the deep sea mining areas are being proposed, there is this impression given by those who want to mine that there's nothing much down there. But now there's evidence. Those who have gone personally, those who've sent the remote cameras on vehicles, there's a lot of life down there. There is life all the way to the deepest part, but your observation, there's also the mark of our indifference, trash, even in the deepest parts of the ocean. That should be something to provoke all of us to double down on looking at what we're doing to what keeps us alive. There is a chance, and it's like right now, facing us, right here, right now, to think, what can we do for the high seas? What can we do to protect the blue heart of the planet? And I really, this whole conference, I think, is meant to inspire us to think seriously on our watch. I might need a Kleenex too, never mind. I mean, seriously, this should be cause for all of us to feel the emotion, the responsibility that we'll never have a better chance. It's not easy. Going to the moon was hard. Saving the ocean is an even greater challenge. Thank you for being a voice.
Did you wish to respond?
Thank you, Dr. Earl. So, this world we live in is very complex, but I think the solutions are in you, in each of you, in our local communities who have, been living, breathing our traditional knowledge and have been basically, depending on our ocean for our livelihoods and culture, our identity. And so, like I said, we really need to come together. We need to sing louder. We need to bang our drums louder so that those who, have different priorities can hear us, can see us. But it's also, the Pacifica has a magical way of, I think, changing minds and changing hearts. And when we do that, then one by one, we can slowly move towards, the ocean we want to see. I wanted to respond on behalf of Sesario of what his impact is, because he's being humble. There's a lot of young people who move away from home, from their island homes to, like myself, to continue and further our education, and there's a big disconnect of what it means to be a Micronesian or a Pacific Islander. And I'm so grateful for Sesario, Uncle Thomas, the Rematau community, Halora, Uncle Max, for continuing to carry on Mau's legacy, because there's so many of us who are lost. We don't know what it means to be Pacific Islander, because some of them have never been home. But we're grateful for people like them who continue to anchor us in our homes, in our communities, and on our canoes. Because when, they say the canoe is our mother and the navigator is father, there are many who don't have those role models, and so that's what the voyaging societies provide for our kids who have that disconnect and who are wandering. But I want them to know that we have people like Cesario, Uncle Thomas, Rematao, community, Halora, Uncle Max, Jeremy, who are here waiting for us, for them to be welcomed in. Thank you.
And we have you as well. Nainoa?
I have a question, but I'm borrowing your time because I just want this audience to know a little story about Sesario. 1978, when Mao came to teach, and he'd stay here 28 months, never went home once. And if I didn't touch salt water, he'd make me swim nighttime off the cliffs of Polar Point, so that I could deal with what he saw in me was fear. He'd make me swim where you cannot see what's underneath you at night and learn how to calm down and be with the ocean. So another story about Ma, when we came back from Tahiti, sailed down and back in 1980, he did sit me down and said, he's packing his bag to go home. First time in 28 months. His whole life was in a small carry-on. He's a complete human being. And he said, okay, you did okay. You guys went down to Tahiti, came back. I guess okay meant we didn't die or something, but then he said, I give you everything, and the ocean show you everything, but it'll be 20 years before you'll see. He said, you want someone to know everything, send your son, because you're too old. And then he went into the story about his grandfather, and with great love in his voice. My grandfather picked me to be navigator after him, and put me dig a hole in the sand, put me inside the sand, and at 1 year old, and I can play. And then I hear the bird, or I smell the forest. I can taste salt. And then at age 5, he was sailing on the voyaging canoe. 5 years old. And with great love of his grandfather, he says, the wave come, make the canoe go up and down, the canoe go up and down, make me sick. He's seasick. Any 5-year-old would be seasick. And in a voyaging canoe in the deep ocean, it's rough out there. And then with love, he said, my grandfather would tie my hands and throw me overboard, drag me behind the canoe. And Mao said, yeah, because my grandfather let me go inside the ocean so I can go inside the wave. And when I go inside the wave, I become navigator. When I go inside the wave, I become the wave. And then I become navigator. There's no separation. The bird, the star, the moon, the wave, the wind, it's the same thing. What I'm getting at, the question to you, Sesario, was having all that background, my first day of class with him was in the grass in a rented one-bedroom room I had in, well, you saw it in Hōkūleʻa, and he made me get 32 rocks and make a star compass, and he wove a canoe out of coconut farm, put it there. And before he started, he stood up and said, I will teach you how to get to Tahiti, I'll teach you how to come home, but I'm not going to teach you the magic. And I've been trying to find that my whole life. And with Mao, you don't ask him twice. You ask him once. And he never brought it back up for 29 years. But when you say, I'm excited to go down under tremendous, tremendous pressure of the oceans, an environment that we wouldn't do too well without the submarine, and to be reliant on that submarine, its technology. But you said, I'm excited. And if I don't come back up, it's okay, because my spirit go in the ocean and take care of everybody else that's on the ocean. I'm very moved by that, and you don't have to answer this question, but your father was watching decline of children not wanting to learn. The only reason he came back to Hawaii Because my mom, that day that he was leaving, went into the bedroom. She goes, hey, Ma, I got a nagging question. How come you weren't going to come back after the 1976 voyage? How come you came back now? Ma said, because two things. Nainoa come look for me. And he asked me to teach. And that's kapu. It's sacred. I didn't even understand the question, by the way. And he said, look in my eyes. He said, I know Nainoa's going to go, but if I come, maybe he'd die. And my mom, that really impacted my mother. In the decline of people wanting to know and nobody asking. Nobody's asking. He invested in Sesario. Sesario is the seed that Mao has planted onto the ocean, onto the earth. Sesario is his investment. Sesario is the future. And that Sesario, amongst all the Micronesian navigators, who are the best in the world, by the way, hands down. Us guys are in kindergarten compared to you guys. Sesario was the one that Mao put his faith in. And I just want, especially these young ones, to know that Mao is an investor, and he put it into him. You don't have to answer the question, but maybe someday later, I just want to know, what's the magic? Maybe later.
Comment?
I believe, it's kind of hard for me to answer the question, what's the magic? But we can sit down and talk about it. But yes, I was, when I finished elementary school, my dad is already saying, after elementary school, you're not going anywhere. You'll sit with me and learn the skills of navigation. So in 1985, when we sailed down to Tahiti, and that's the voyage of rediscovery from 85 to 87. And then I flew back from Tahiti, and that was my chance to go to high school while my father still sailing through the rest of the Pacific Islands. Because the voyage was 85 to 87, so I was able to go to high school. And then went to Saipan to go to Northern Marianas College. In 94, he came back and said, no, you're not going to school. Let's go to Hawaii. That's when I came. And then I sailed with you, sailed with the rest of the brothers from Cook Islands and Aotearoa. Yeah. So it's the secret is the same as the post ceremony that you have to protect yourself before other people can go through you and ruin everything. So that's why if you see that when Robert do the protection for every one of us, so we will stay protected, not get some other magic that some people wants to do to destroy ourselves. But bottom line is we'll get to that. Thank you.
Mahalo. So?
Mahalo. I just wanted to ask Nicole, because you shared something with us on the days just preceding this FESTPAC about your experience going down. And when you were talking about that, it reminded me of our kumulipo. Because when we talk about the kumulipo as our creation, we talk about from the depths of the ocean of which we are created. But the Kumulipo explains about all things in the progression of the creation of all life. And then it goes into the terrestrial, into the mountains, even into the sky, and into the heavens, and into the stars. But you talked about your experience about going into the deep and phosphorescence and how that made you almost be a reflection, you know. So for us, we see that the Mauna Kea, the Mauna, and the heavens is a reflection of the deep sea. So if you would share that with us, because it helped to bring it all together, and I appreciate that.
Okay, I'll try not to cry again. Well, that was one of the really one of the magical moments in my life that just went off in my head. And it's one of those moments where you're in it at that moment, but you will not understand what that means until later down the road. And I think that was one of another feeling I got when I was present for the Po blessing ceremony the other night. But what Uncle Saul is saying, so as I was going down to Challenger Deep, you know, I thought it made me think about the bioluminescent creatures twinkling in the dark. And that reminded me of the stars in the sky and navigation. So I can't describe the feeling that I felt, but it was very, spiritual for me. That when I felt that the deeper I went, the higher I was going into the sky, because it was like, the ocean is a mirror of the sky, and the sky is a mirror of the ocean. And so, yeah, the deeper I went, the higher I went up. And so I felt like I was at two places at once. That I was in the ocean with my ancestors, or I was in the ocean and my ancestors were with me, and then I was also going up, being with my ancestors there. So when I shared that with my siblings, they said, "Are you crazy? Are you okay? Like, did the PhD kind of, burn your cells or something?" But that was one of the most magical moments that I've ever had. That feeling of being in the presence of your ancestors at the bottom of the ocean, but also in the stars. Thank you.
Mahalo. We have a question from our Kamali. Yeah, you can ask yours. Kuilula. Tell us your name.
I'm Skyly from Mālama Honua. My question is for you. When working with your community, how does it affect you and also them?
So my job is working with our local communities, and it's a beautiful relationship to have. What was mentioned in the earlier talks is that when you work with your local communities, it needs to be built on trust, and that your work can only move as fast as trust is built. And so being Pacific Islander, being Micronesian, this is not transactional for me. This is helping family. And so when, I don't like, maybe not partnership, but working, when building relationship, fostering it with community, it not only builds them, but it also builds me. And like I said, our communities are our North Star. And so they always ground me back to what matters the most, which is our values of respect and love. And so together we build this strong foundation together. And when challenges come, we may be shaken and the top portion may fall, but we still have this layer of trust and love and respect for each other. So we get to build together again, stronger, taller, smarter, and more resilient for the next challenges to come. So it's love. We grow deeper in love. We grow deeper in respect. In family, we start to build family across the whole ocean. And so building family, building community is just one of the things that I just love being islander, that we're all connected and that, you know, we share the same foundation of these, our cultural values.
Mahalo. She was once sitting in a place like you, I bet, at some point, and you could be sitting in a place like her at some point in the future. Any other questions? Thomas?
Nicole, I forgot if we talk after you came back and we talk about there was one question that I asked you to, if you can go find out the answer to for me, and maybe Sesario can also contribute in this one. And we have a lot of legends here, a lot of legends and a lot of songs and chants about Methuola the sea lane between Sewralur and Saipan. And we have this, in the legend, we have this thing about this rough area that is, we call it the wall between Satawalese and Saipan, that we can, it's hard. We have a lot of legends about crossing that rough area. And Sesario may relate to some, one part of one chant where it says, "Iga igar Pohnpei inga che yere fei seragregaro nanemetuari efangi." So it's about getting to that, going to that sea lane that is really rough. And I think I had asked you, can you go down there and check out what is down there that is affecting up there, that is making this wall? And I don't know if we ever discussed that after he came back. I'm not sure.
I think that was one of the questions you asked me. And so the deep, while we were down in Challenger Deep, we wouldn't need propellers. The submarine would just sit and we would move on our own. And so there are natural currents in these deep areas, and then in the earlier talks that there's these seamounts and trenches, and with these currents they also hit those trenches and then create other currents that go in. These currents also bring up, rich nutrient cold water to the surface that also may create these rough waves, but also the wind from the surface coming in from different directions, but also the surface currents as well. But also the magic is down there, so. And I think it might be your ancestors just trying to make it harder for you to get to your destination.
Well, I believe I've been crossing that sea lane with my father, and then he would say that the current is really strong. You're not going to get close. If you're going to Saipan, make sure the Guam and Rhoda is below, because that's where where the branch is, and you need to point more higher upwind, so it's easy for you to stare down and ride the waves, because that's where the rough water is, and then you have to ride the wave down to Saipan. If you're too close to Guam, where the trench is, then the current will take you below Guam and Rhoda, and it's really hard to come back up. So I've done a sail from after 2016 FESTPAC, and I was asked to go to Guam and bring this canoe to Saipan. And then it's all against the wind, and the current is always pushing us to the west. So it took about 3 days just in between Guam and Rhoda. And then I was able to fight against the wind, go to the east of Rota, and then shoot up for Saipan. So it took us 7 days, 120 miles, 7 days to get to Saipan. So, yeah, so that's the area that the chant was talking about is, once you're in that area, then you will have the hard time, It's only those that they can fight the current and those big waves.
Oh, do we have other questions? If not, let's give our Nicole and Sesario a warm round of applause. Chicken skin moment.